This is the Raw and Radical Woman in the Arts podcast, and I am your host, Maureen Broadbeck.
Raw, unprocessed.
In each episode, we explore the mechanisms of identity, vulnerability, authenticity, empowerment, and social change through conversations with inspiring women who are making history and challenging the status quo in both the art world and in society.
Radical, rebel, progressive.
We talk about their real-life challenges and celebrate cis and transgender women so that you can be inspired, empowered, take action, and further your critical understanding about what it means to be a woman in the arts.
Woman, feminism. A revolutionary catalyzing reformation. Radical.
Raquel van Haver is a painter and photographer. Her style is very narrative and figurative, and she refers to her work as loud. Her photographies bring together a collection of images she takes for many years, places, and people as collages. She was born in 1989 in Bogota. She now lives and works in Amsterdam. She graduated from HKU Fine Arts in Utrecht in 2012. Her work has been exhibited at the Dordrecht Museum, Stedelijk Museum, and Beaux-Arts Center for Fine Arts Brussels. She recently won the prestigious Dutch Royal Prize for painting. I discovered her work at the ARTCO Gallery at the Paper Position Art Fair Berlin last September, where I was also showing works, and I totally fell in love. Her large-scale and often monumental artworks are really captivating because they bring a collection of source material that she gathers both in West Africa and South America and are as joyful, festive and busy as sometimes dark, ominous and serious. I'm really happy to welcome her today to the show. Hi Raquel, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. You use people in your work a lot. There's a lot of scenes also with gatherings together. And this seems to be something really reoccurring in your work. Bodies and people and getting together. Can you explain this?
I think for me, I always have a big fascination when it comes to groups, group pressure, the identity of a group. And it's interesting to see, like, when you look at a group, there's always one who's the leader. There's always one who's taking care. There's a pattern in every group all around the world. There's a pattern in groups. And I love to actually portray them when they actually mingle and it's like almost a dance. One goes to talk with that one, the other one stands there, and they actually all play a part in this big play of being a group.
Yeah.
And I think for me that it's beautiful to watch, and I love to paint it because like I almost can identify myself every time when I'm painting one single individual in that group. So for me, my fascination comes from there.
So you just mentioned peer pressure.
Yes.
You know, when I think about it, we often don't realize that some of our thoughts are created by this society and this peer pressure. And it takes quite a lot to actually step back and realize this. So you were mentioning that when you grew up, you started to feel this quite at an early age.
Yeah. I came here to the Netherlands when I was very young. Colombian adopted, grew up in a very white family, in a very white society, in a bubble, where I always had to conform to everybody else, and I had to actually stand my ground to show my own identity because I had to change my identity for the group. And so I think I was already confronted from a very young age to change that identity and also to play with it. And I think as well that there's a lot to see in my work. So my work is also very personal when it comes to that, when it talks about those topics, about colonial thinking, about showcasing identity, changing identity. It's almost like a trickster going from that side to that side, and it always tries to follow a midway sometimes. So everything around me was different, and I had to unify with that, and I almost had to forget about my own history. And that was really tough because when a group is pointing to you the whole time, telling you you're different, but still you have to act like the same.
Yeah.
You come in conflict. So I think that conflict always played a big role when I was growing up, and still it plays a big role in my work, because for me now living in Amsterdam, the southeast of Amsterdam, and it's actually one of the biggest areas in Amsterdam, and I think also in the Netherlands, where there's so many different kind of cultures living together. The size is like it's not that big, but it's a big area, like the size of a normal town. And we all seem to live together. We all seem aligned. It's also a town that used to be very poor, or like it was a bad neighborhood. Also, we could unify together against the rest of the Netherlands because we had this stigma of being this and this and this and this. But if you look at the Netherlands, this is also the place where you find the most music and the best artists.
Yeah.
So we formed a group of very strong people fighting against that idea. And as well, because your friends are coming, like my neighbors are coming from Ghana, the other one is coming from Puerto Rico, the other one is coming from Cuba, the other one is Morocco, like everybody's something, and we all bring something to the table, and we don't see it as a curse. It's a blessing. So we love to share those things with each other. So most people do have knowledge of the other culture. Kids are going to the same school, so we need to know where kids are playing, and we need to know a little bit of the food and the traditions and the culture. So it's beautiful to see a place where people actually can do that, instead of the place I was growing up in the past, where people were very trying to stay away from that. So like I like to actually combine these two ideas, like my old self in the past with a big conflict in myself, identity conflict, and now the one who actually is embracing everything what I see around me, and I'm embracing my own identity. So that's like the thing that goes from always trying to take a little bit from history. I take a little bit from my own space now, and I take a little bit from my own past, and then trying to put that inside of the painting as a story.
Yeah. You also spent time in Nigeria?
Yes, this I think because I was invited for Lagos Photo Festival by an artist foundation to do a project in Nigeria, in Lagos, where I also found a group of people I was so interested in, and we started to hang out. I started to stay there for quite a while. And after a while, started to make photos of the group dynamics. And I met one of the leaders of the group, very beautiful lady, who actually took me with her to show her own environment. So I was very happy that she did. I started to make collage pieces about it, and a series called Shrine of a Deity. And it's really talking about her environment, her way of living, because she was one of the leaders of a group of area boys. And they're very notorious in Lagos of demanding sometimes respect from other groups of people. And it was interesting to see a woman on top there in the group, because it's a very machonism kind of environment. So when I was there one day, they were throwing a party, and it was beautifully decorated. They had something very special. I was like, oh wow, this is actually, I want to paint something like this, because it looked so familiar. Like when I go back to Colombia and I'm throwing parties with friends, we do have the same kind of atmosphere. Or when I'm back in my own neighborhood, when we're throwing parties, like we're also taking out plastic chairs and put out tables, and starting to barbecue and sharing food. So it's like, okay, you know what? Like I've been traveling all my life, and every time when I do something or come to a place, there's always a moment like this. There's always a moment where people come and gather, started to dance, started to drink, started to mix, and I make always photos when I'm there. Like, so I had like an archive of maybe 10 years of being in different spaces all around the world, doing the same thing, chilling. So when I got back, and I already was talking with the Stedelijk Museum about this show, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take all my archive out, and I'm gonna connect all these different kind of images and make it as one. So the show was about multiple places I've been to, and I think most photos were from Amsterdam itself. It was a mix between people I've met in Lagos, in Bogota, in Amsterdam, also in Zimbabwe, in Cape Town, like all the places I actually did projects. And I just made it as one.
This big work, We Don't Sleep as We Parade All Through the Night. Could you talk about it? How you created it and how you decided to go really big?
Yeah, it's a painting. It's 10 by 4 meters, so 10 wide, 4 high, 4 panels, 4 frames. And it's very much like the masterpiece of the show.
Yeah.
And also I actually put it on a sort of platform. So people really had to watch it. It was very dominant in the room. So they gave me 6 big rooms in the museum. I think it was the left wing from the Stedelijk Museum they gave me. So it was more like a journey from one space. First you had the collages you saw at fair, and then you walked to the next space, and in every space there was one big piece, and in the end you entered like the huge space where this piece was in. And there was an enormous wooden installation where you could climb up. It was a platform, but you can also sit, because I made some stairs and I made some weird shapes. So you could really sit down and watch the painting. Because for me, I'm always bothered by the way how museums present their works. Like there's no place to sit down for an hour or two.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to sit and enjoy. So I actually made an environment where all the paintings were standing on the platforms and you could sit down. And it was almost like a square. Like I actually made a sort of square in the middle. So you could stand there, and next to that, there were like small seats in the installation. You could just sit down, talk with people, or stare at the paintings or climb on it. And then this painting, I think it took me 6 months to make it, because it's all paint and it's very, very thick. Like some parts are like 30 centimeters thick. It takes a while. So it's, for me, when I go to the studio, I start at 9, 10 in the morning, and I leave the studio at 1 at night.
Yeah.
That's my life most of the time. So it's just like making work, and trying to put layer on layer on layer. And just, I need to know what the process is, like how much time it will take for one layer to dry so I can start with that one. So for me, when I paint on big canvases, I have time to wait, because then I can already start on another layer. So it's more like I can work on multiple parts of the painting, and then I have to wait again. So I can start on this one, and then I start on this one and this one. So in the end, I can finish it all at once. And as well, because it's more like a theater play almost when you look at it. Like there's so many things are happening. Something is happening over there. It's like a short movie, but just then on one canvas. I really love the action and the energy when it comes to painting. When I do something very small, probably I will be done in maybe a day or two. And I feel like I didn't actually got drawn into the painting to actually tell that story. Like the process is too short. So that's why also I choose to actually work big. So I actually can start a relationship with my own painting.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's quite frustrating to look at these big painting online because it's just too small. And you want to really go there and spend some time with it and enter the story and the narrative. It's really tricky nowadays, I think, to figure out how to communicate our work on the internet when we cannot especially travel.
Yes, it's like for now the show at Bonnefante Museum Amalarena is open. So that's as well, it's a show that invites you to experience. So when you get in, it's in a tower. So like it's a huge museum, but they have one big tower where they most of the time do only street art or murals or whatever. But there's I think I'm the first or the second one who actually shows paintings inside that place. And it has 8 walls from 5 meters by, I think it's like 20, 30 meters high. It's very high. But the acoustics are beautiful in there. So the thing is, like when they ask me to do a show there, I always look at the location itself, and Maastricht is very Catholic. So it's like, okay, immediately, okay, I want to do something with that. I want to actually add that experience as well in this show. So they invited me to go to their collection and pick one piece out as a starting point. And I started with the Maria images they have from the 14th century.
All right.
So on, I started to do some research, and I already did my own research for a couple of years on female social leaders in Colombia. So you have a lot of women on head of organizations helping children going to school, or helping villages to get over the past when it comes to the civil wars that were in Colombia, because it was like the longest civil war in the whole world. So people are very, very traumatized. So you have so many women who are trying to give something back to the community. But unfortunately, because of all the things that are happening now in Colombia, a lot of these women getting killed. And nobody's talking about it. And it's actually pressure from the government, from the richer families to take over power again in those kind of areas. But because these women standing up and fighting against these people, like they have to pay it with their lives. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need to come back to myself. I need to talk about my own history as well.
Yeah.
And for me, being adopted and being in that orphanage when I was small was because of the Civil War. Like my parents came from totally different areas in Colombia, were not supposed to meet if there was not a civil war. They run away, they flew from their cities to Bogota, start a better life. And then they met, and then in the end, the whole story is clear. So coming back from that, talking about that, researching my own history, but also looking into the past, into the future, how these women are doing now. I thought it was like a very honor for me actually to talk about them, to research their ideas and to research their stories and to share their stories, because most of the time maybe only the village knows who they are, but nobody else, and they're really doing incredible things. So I went out with this camera crew to make a documentary about it. I spent overall maybe 5 months in Colombia again. Luckily, I have a friend who has a huge network already for 30 years working with social leaders in Bogota. So he was like, okay, you know what? Here's a name, here's some names, here's a list. Go and visit them. So I did. And I took my assistant with me. She's from Bogota. And we started to travel, and then they opened their doors and they were calling more friends and like, hey, this project is very dope. Please also join and share your story. So we just started to hub cities and hub places. And
excellent, yeah.
We stayed for a week or a month. Sometimes we just stayed for a couple of days. And we just started to archive everything these women did. And then when I got back, I started to paint them. I started to actually, and it was even not because it was too much to paint, too much information. So it was like, okay, you know what? Those Maria images, like it's like worshipping or something. I want to make those kind of images, strong images for them as well. So now it's more like a pedestal for all of these women I've met. It's like you cannot, if you look at it and you don't know the story, it can be beautiful and you still can see that there's something very holy about it. But I think especially for the people in Colombia and the people I've met, it's much more worth it. So actually now they opened in a museum in Santa Marta. They opened a new show, some of the collages I made as well. But because of Corona, nobody can see it. So again, it sucks. So, but we now decided as well with like my friend's organization in Bogota to make it a traveling show, so it can go also back to the villages of these women, but it also can go back to share this because it's beautiful. I have this show in the Bonafante, but I think it's more important and relevant to have it back where it belongs.
Yeah, true. So what's your experience as a woman artist?
Good. Overall, like as an artist, I think it's good. But as a female artist, sometimes it's difficult. Like last time we were talking about these invisible forces. And the thing is that I cannot give real evidence on paper, like, hey, look, this is what males do, this is what females do, and there's like a difference in it. But sometimes it's just a feeling, or sometimes it's already only the conversations you have with men in general. You have to fight for your place a little bit more than male artists. And it's annoying sometimes because I think not everybody, but some galleries or collectors or maybe museums, they're still quite conservative when it comes to the idea of being female and being male and what you can do as a female artist and what you can do as a male artist. I still think that male artists can do much more and get away with much more than female artists. I like to observe that. Maybe I should make a work about it. I don't know. But then again, as well, like the idea and the conversation, everybody stumbles against, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is, but they will ask, like, do you have children and what are your future plans aiming for? question, do you have children or do you want to have children? And do I want to work with you? And I think that is the biggest problem I encounter the whole time now.
Yeah.
Because even for me in my relationship, I'm traveling all the time. So there's already a friction in that.
Yeah.
Because how can she have a relationship, or how can she, because she's away all the time. So when I see my friends, my male friends, and they're traveling 24/7, nobody actually is complaining.
Yeah, or asking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the theme of children is recurring a lot. First of all, men are never asked, are you going to have children or do you want children?
And if they have, it's like, okay.
if they have it, then they just dads. But
Yeah.
for women, it's a whole different ballgame. So that means that society in a general way still implies that if you're a woman, you take care of the kids and the man doesn't. Things are changing, but it's still there in a general way, and that's quite amazing.
Yeah, and the idea is that in the end, when there's babies, like I see it also with my male friends, and they're, let's say, baby mamas, because nobody's together now. The ladies were also artists in the beginning, but they're now full-time moms, and they are traveling the world. And when you have conversations with them about this, it's like, yeah, but I'm a dad too. I was like, no, you're here with me, and we're drinking a lot of wine, but they're at home with the children. And then you see them thinking like, oh yeah, shit, true. And I think because it's embedded in the system, we even don't think. It's like with a lot of discrimination or racial things, it's so embedded in the system. And what you were saying in the beginning already, like we have to very be aware of how we think.
Yeah.
Because we blindfolded sometimes. And I think this is one as well. But then again, is it getting better? And are people fighting against it? Or they just leave it?
Oh, we work a lot with habits, and I think our thoughts work the same way. And then there's a lot about conveniency. You know, it takes a lot of work to question yourself and try to change things. And yeah, that's very interesting. Regarding finances, do you feel women in the arts approach their finances in a different way, or they are put in a place that they should approach their finance in a different way? And people say a lot that women make less money also in art, that the value of their work is different.
If I compare, I think yes. I think as well, I cannot show on paper that there's a change. I see around me that sometimes male artists do way more than I do. And then the gallerist or the collector does have a legit between things. Answer when I'm like, okay, maybe I'm too young, or maybe I'm this, or maybe I'm this. I'm always asking myself, but I'm never asked them. And maybe that's my fault as well, like, because I'm always shocked. I was like, okay, maybe it's my fault, or maybe I do something wrong, or maybe I haven't had that platform already. And so I cannot, like, for me, I'm not sure if it's me or them then.
Yeah.
But then again, when I'm in the studio, I'm painting at least 12 hours a day, and I'm getting dirty, and like when they see me at openings, they see me when I'm wearing heels and my hair is done and pretty. And they can actually sometimes still, they cannot imagine I did that work. So I think also the way how people perceive your studio time makes also something, or they will pay for that. And I don't think sometimes people believe that it was me or something, or they think, okay, it's easy done. Like, I don't see her working hard, so probably it's easy. So they don't say it that directly, but like in the way they say it, I can.
Yeah, you feel it. But don't you think it's also something from culture that women tend to question themselves more? I hear a lot around me women that would say, oh, maybe I did something wrong, maybe it's my fault, maybe I should have done it differently. This is something very common for women.
I think it's the way how they groomed us.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Boys can play and they can get dirty and they can, I don't know, and sometimes when they do something stupid, they're like, they're boys.
Yeah.
But when girls are doing it, and when we came back with our skirts and whatever, like they were screaming at us, like, why are you doing this? From a young age, we always have to pretend like we're neat and decent. And if we're not, we have to question ourselves, because we know they groomed us like that. We have to be this and this and this. And I think like 50 years ago, it was even worse.
Yeah.
Like women voting rights and everything, you know? So I think we have already came from a faraway place, but we still have to overcome so many things. And as I think, especially with these things, the questioning ourselves part is we groomed of questioning ourselves. We're groomed that we think we did something wrong. And as long as we're aware of that, we can get better and we can overcome this, but we need to get aware of it first.
That's true. I really like this notion of narration and giving a space to people in history.
I think in a way that if you're an artist or you have any platform, doesn't matter, you can also use that platform to actually lift up others, to talk about others.
Yeah.
And a lot of artists here in the Netherlands, not everybody, but some do think it's okay, I'm an artist, but I can just use it for my own art or use it for myself. And I think that's fine if you don't feel the need to. But I feel very much the need to talk about it. But I think also because in a way where I live and what I see around me, and luckily I have a lot of people who are activists and writers and support around me. So I see them doing that as well. Like it gives some energy. That was the start actually to do this.
Yeah.
Not only talk about colors or lines, but if you go to museums, you see how important art is when it comes to history, when it comes to how to showcase history in a way. So I think changing that or using that tool, because it's very powerful.
True.
So I like to do,
Yeah.
But some people don't like that, don't want to do that. So, but you're doing the same, right?
Yeah, I'm working also in a different way with identity, and very also touched by everything that's intimate with the identity and the environment. That's why I'm very interested in putting people in perspective from different places, because I think at the end of the day, no matter what the culture, no matter what the location on the planet it is, we are all so similar, and we have a lot in common when it comes to really the authenticity of life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But do you also think here now in Europe, like the idea of being similar or do have like a lot of things in common, like the ideas are changing, it becomes so nationalistic. There's quite a new intense experience, I think, in all of Europe, going to the right wing that are questioning these topics we're talking about.
Yeah, true. I think there is definitely a change that's happening in the world, and I think we have to be more open. I think what's happening is that people are scared. Everybody's scared of change, and things are changing, and people are trying to fight it, even if they're not really sure what they're fighting. They just don't like change, and we're forced to change. I think people often forget that we are just one planet, and we have to think much more globally. But of course, it's hard for people and everybody because they see what's around them. They just see their life, they see their day to day. I think we should support each other much more.
Yeah.
We have every culture and country has so much to offer to the others, and people don't want to listen because they always think that we're so superior than the others. I think it's a human thing. We think we're superior than nature. We feel we're superior than the animal kingdom. And we think we're more clever. We're not. I think we're not. We feel we're so sophisticated, but then we're not. We're really not. We have technology and we have things, but the way we treat our environment, the way we treat each other, the way we treat nature and animals, this is not sophistication to me.
Empathy is a big thing we're missing sometimes, especially towards these things. Exactly what you're saying. I think it's human nature to think, to see itself on top of everything.
Yeah.
I think, if it was not for that, we wouldn't be here at all. Like, probably we died a couple of thousand years ago already.
Yeah.
Like it was for humankind.
Yeah.
So in a way, this fighter mentality, being the best, and putting themselves forward. Like, I think as well, when people look at leaders, they look for these kind of characteristics. They look for somebody who's very full and strong, and he knows, and he has all the knowledge. And if you look also in history, look at those stories about kings and leaders.
Yeah.
They always have these kind of, I think, sometimes annoying characteristics.
Yeah.
But still, we do see this as a leader role. And I don't think we ever changed that vision.
Yeah. I'm always really questioning our education system, because we're supposed to all be very educated. Yet, when you see what's happening around us, I have to really question this. I think we as artists have an amazing opportunity to be really free to say what we want to say. And I think society doesn't see that yet in a general way. I think the art should be placed back at the center of society for people to really reflect and be able to take an opinion.
But I think then first, exactly what you're saying, we have to change the educational system. You do your math, you have your languages, you have like history and geography, something like that. But art is somewhere here. Like, this is the whole package of an artist here.
Yeah, it's not important. Yeah.
So again, like we're talking about grooming, like we have to groom more children, that art should be in the center. And that you should also, when we talk about emotions, you can do that via art. You can play theater, you can make music, you can dance, but there's so much more to it. So I think we got sucked into this. We're going to talk now. It's all focused on to actually make the capital bigger. That's how we groomed.
Yeah.
Because art is still, and is been seen for the elite. They see it as a rich man's toy, but that's it. And I think as well, the collectors and maybe the galleries gave huge amounts of money away for art. So I understand why people, the only time when they hear news about art is then when a Banksy or Monet or whatever sold at Sotheby's for crazy money. That's what they hear. So I understand as well that they don't want to actually involve themselves into this, because it's insane already.
Yeah, and I think for people, the art world is quite obscure. They don't understand it. And it's hard enough for artists to even understand it. So
True.
But I think it's also convenient to keep it that way for quite a few people. Art should be really at the center of the dialogue in society, and it should be in education, treated with as much respect and value as anything else. And the same with sport, and it would make a much happier society. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
You too.
I invite you to go online and discover the show at the Bonnefanten Museum, where Raquel exhibits her work. The show is called Say It Loud and is on until April 18th of this year, but it might stay longer because of the pandemic. Say It Loud explores subjects related to the colonial past and diversity, touching on migration, diaspora, slavery, social exploitation, amongst other subjects. Raquel shows their work from her series Amo a la Reina. Have a look on the website to see images from the show and her work. I also encourage you, if you don't know her work, to go check it out. All links are on the story. This podcast is supported by Pro Helvetia, the Swiss Arts Council, and the city of Lancy. We are so thankful for their support and commitment to culture, women, and the arts. Thanks for listening to Raw and Radical Women in the Arts podcast. Learn more about our featured artists and sign up for news and updates by visiting our website, rawradical.com.
Organic, radical, profound.
Please consider leaving us a comment and review on your preferred podcast listening platform to help others discover the show and take part in this global dialogue.
She, intuitive.
I am Maureen Broadbeck, and until next time, keep the dream alive.
Woman.